Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everybody. We are days away from the holidays, at least the first one, and it's coming. And invariably, you know that there are potential challenges there for many families, blended families, lots going on there, a lot of emotions, a lot of stress sometimes, some anxiety, worrying about plans, presents, all of that. Now, mix in your children and some of the challenges that come along with that, especially if you've had some challenges with your child or children leading up to that. How do you navigate the holidays with your kids? We're going to talk about that today. She is an amazing parents coach. We need this. I wish I realized this many years ago. And her practice is called Healthy Foundations. Dr. Michelle Alden is back with us. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you back. And this is a super important topic. I mean, it's tough enough, let's be honest, to navigate the holidays with friends and family, especially family. And I'm gonna throw in here that if there's anybody that's listening or watching and says everything's great with my family, we have never any issue. You're not being honest. Let's be honest. There's always things going on. What are the first things that we should remember when it comes to our kids and the holidays?
Well, I think that it's easy to forget that it's kind of stressful, and also that even excitement kind of can produce a lot of anxiety, not just for the kids. And so if you're stressed as a parent, thinking about, your mother-in-law coming over and the kids being out of school and stretching money to make it through and preparing meals and all of that, that the kids, it may seem like, oh, it's just all fun and games for them and they're not having any of that. But I've worked with a lot of families that the holidays are, they're really thankful if they have a holiday season where a child doesn't have to go to the mental hospital for a complete mental break, and you may feel that way as a parent, like I hope I don't end up having to go. And I love the holidays, but it brings a lot with it. And that feeling of anxiety is it's a very similar hormone that's produced in the body that is the same as excitement. So your kids may be feeling excited, but it can come out as anxiety or vice versa.
What do you think is fueling it? Is it just anxiety from the child? Is it the child also picking up on the potential anxiety from the parents?
I think it's a lot of things. And so I think you have to take a step back and kind of look at everything that's going on and the things that you as the adults might be anxious about, and realize that the kids are carrying their own load of it and not be afraid to address it. And I tell parents like to take charge of the holiday season, and have a plan, even if it's loose and doesn't feel like, you're not sure exactly how it's going to go. Having a plan puts you in charge with the kids. And I think that's one of the hardest things about vacations, time out of school, any of that for the kids, is they may love the downtime, but it feels like nobody knows what's going on and nobody's in charge. And that can add a lot of fuel to, instead of it just being exciting, it's like, also produces a lot of anxious feelings.
Do you think it's the change of schedule, like the routine? Everything is all different now. Like you said, home from school, don't know what to do. Then, now we got to go to this house. Now we got to go to this house. Then there's this, and the complete disruption. Do you think that has a lot to do with it?
I do. I think that for especially for your more neurodivergent kids, the structure is really, really important. So even though they may be saying to you, depending on their age, that they're just looking forward to sleeping in and playing games all day and not having to do anything, have a basic schedule because they need that routine. And I think it's important to keep the routines as much as possible. I know some parents can kind of be overboard and they won't do anything outside of the routines, and that's not always as helpful either, because it is a different season and a different time. But having those routines can be super helpful. The other thing is look at a lot of the things that are planned, and around the holidays, it is a lot of adult things that are planned. You know, you have different adults coming to your home, or you're going to go visit. Yes, they may get to see their cousins or friends that, you know, they haven't seen in a while, but for the most part, there's a lot of, you know, adult interaction. So there's expectations that we may have on our kids of how they're going to behave or how we want them to behave, but we may not be communicating those, or realize that it's kind of taxing. You know, I have some families that decide not to go to every Christmas party because it's so hard on the kids.
How do you make the decision? So let's say you're getting some pushback from your child, and we have this to go to, we have this going on, we have this. How do you decide that, yeah, you know what? My child is really uncomfortable. Do I still make them go? Do I cut back the schedule? How do you make that determination?
Oh, I love that question. That's such a great question, because I think it causes us to consider. So I think if parents can take the time to plan some things out and see everything that's on the schedule, that helps a lot. So to first kind of get the overview picture, if we have 3 parties in 1 week, you know, what do the kids need to go to? What is it okay that they don't go to? Also, if you have a history that they always have a major meltdown at the work party, then you might want to consider whether it's worth it or not. And if it's something that, you know, is important to you, that your children are there, then you're going to have to do some prep work around that, so that we do have a different outcome than what we've always had. If we just expect it to be like it's always been and we do what we always do, probably going to happen that same way. So I think taking a look at that, and then there are some times where it may be a day by day thing. I just don't like to have parents hold that over the kid's head or dangle it like a carrot. And, you know, if you're good today, then this is going to happen. If we just base it on their behaviors, they may sabotage the whole thing, even if it's something they wanted to do, just to kind of feel like they have some sense of control. So I like to, if it's going to happen, put it on the schedule and then do your preparation around it. And if at the last minute you decide this isn't going to work, make sure you prepare the child for that, because those kind of changes can be really hard. Even though they may have relief, they may also have disappointment or feel like you're mad at them because you didn't get to go to this party.
What about reward? So can you look at it that way? Yeah, your child doesn't want to go. Maybe a meltdown or a mild one, or the beginning of one. And is it okay to say, listen, we have to go. Everybody's going to be there. We'll be there just a short time. And if you go, I'll do this or I'll give you that. Is that a bad thing?
Yes and no. I think when you see it as a reward or a bribe, it can kind of be a little bit off and may not get you the results. I look at it as incentive. We go to work so we get a paycheck. Is that a bribe, or is it, you know, like cause and effect? Like, right, we do this, we get this. So I think it's good to teach kids that. So if there's an event that they don't want to go to, that you're just they have to fight their way through it, I think that's a good thing that we all have to work through sometimes. So taking that opportunity to say, we're going to go to this party. I know that you don't really enjoy it. Here's some things we're going to have that you can enjoy or you can look forward to. You can even, I've had parents bring their own treats or whatever, because it's all, you know, so just preparing it ahead of time. And then I'm totally fine with, like, we're going to be there an hour. If everything goes well, then on the way home, we're going to stop and get, you know, not that we need more sweets, but, you know, something,
Yeah.
you know.
Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, it's because a lot of times, that I look for the parent manual. I can't find it. I don't know. Maybe it's under the couch, but yeah, I haven't found it yet. Um, One thing I will say, and I think you'll agree with it, if you say something, you absolutely, positively, unequivocally have to stick to it. If you say to your child, yeah, on the way home, we'll stop for ice cream, you got to do it. And there's no
Mhm.
deviation from that, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think the more you can be clear with those expectations, it helps a lot, and it builds that trust in the communication and the
Sure.
relationship when you're saying, hey, and I think if you just say something vague like if you're good or if you behave yourself, if you don't cause any problems, because the child, most of the kids I work with, they don't think that they're bad, and they don't necessarily even know that they're doing anything bad. Sometimes they have some of that, of course they know like it's wrong, certain things are wrong or right, but for the most part, like I think if we knew everything that was going on inside of their heads, they might think, you should see all the things I didn't do, right? So being really clear about what that means, like we're going to go to this party. I want, maybe you can even make it a game. If you have a child that's autistic or socially, social skills are not their thing, you can say, you have to shake hands with 3 people, or you have to say hi. You can give them some tasks that you want to see that they do. And you can tell them if you get nervous or it's not working out, or your friends that are there are not, you feel like they're not being kind, then you can come stand by me and
Hmm.
just hang out with me.
Um, I want to go back to what you said a second ago because I find it intriguing and also very insightful, as you always are. Kids don't think they're, I don't want to say, I'm afraid to say this, as bad as we think they are. I thought I heard you say that. They don't have a perception of they're going off the deep end or just kind of crazy. They don't see it that way. That's what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple different reasons for that. One is that a lot of kids are not very self-aware. They don't know how they're showing up
Well,
in time and space and how other people see them. They may have some even wrong perceptions about how people see them. They may not even, some kids are not even that aware of what other people their age are doing. I've seen kids that the whole classroom can leave and go, do something, and they're like, what just happened? Like, where did everybody go?
wow.
But also we're measuring against our expectations. Like we have in our mind what it looks like to be a good kid or to do the right thing. And I think, what's the harm in spelling that out? Exactly what those expectations are. We're going to go to the grocery store. I have to get these many things. I want you to stay right here. If you ask for something more than 3 times, then, you know, we're just going to leave, or whatever it's going to be.
Mm, very interesting. As for any parent, not just a parent of a child that might have some challenges, but realizing it through their eyes that they don't see what's going on. They don't have a sense of their true being or the way we see it as a parent. So I think that's very impactful for us to be mindful of it. They don't get it. Here we
Yeah.
think, you're doing it on purpose. You're trying to go to this party and now no, they're not. It's not that way. That's what I'm learning here today. Eye opener.
Yeah, yeah. I think, you know, I don't think any kids want to ruin Christmas. And I don't think that I really don't think, for the most part, most of the kids that I've worked with over the years, they're not trying to even ruin your day.
Yeah.
They have their own stuff going on, and a lot of kids are trying to in some way communicate how awful that feels, or even in their excitement, they're not aware that they're over the top, right? And um yeah, so just helping them to know kind of where those boundaries are, and not being afraid that we have to go over that a lot, because it's going to take them a while to get it.
And that's interesting too, that they have their own stuff going on. We don't see it that way. It could be something as minimal as, little Jimmy can't come over today to hang out with you. All right. So you change the schedule with maybe later tomorrow, whatever. To a child, that could be devastating. That's what they were thinking or planning on every day. Or they thought a show was on and it's not. We minimalize it because we don't see it through their eyes or understand it. But we need to. It's very
Yeah,
important.
yeah. And I think
Hmm.
it's so important to like consider that. And it's not to, I have a lot of parents that feel like, well, I understand why they're acting this way. So now I don't, like, they feel like they can't do anything about it because they have so much compassion that then they
Right.
don't have the actions. But it's all about teaching, right? Like if something didn't happen the way that they expected it, they don't have the life experience to handle those disappointments. So we have to help them to know that, yeah, sometimes we get disappointed and here's how we can handle it. We can't just, you know, either tell them to buck up and, and handle it, nor can we just overcompensate for it. Like, oh, this didn't happen. So now I'm going to, change my whole day so that you don't feel bad. It's like, no, we can have that moment of feeling bad and label it, of disappointment and that's a bummer and then work to when we can do something else or
Hmm.
work through that.
Michelle, how about any other thoughts when it comes to the holidays and kids and navigating through all that? Any suggestions?
Yeah, one other one that comes up a lot is if you're traveling for the holidays, or anytime really, what to do. Depending on the age of the kids, having a plan as far as, things for them to do while you're traveling is one piece of it. But a lot of times you're visiting family or friends in other places. And so you as the adult maybe like, well, we can't really have a schedule like we do at home because I don't know what's going to happen. But if you
Hmm.
can at least have a vague idea of what's going to happen and you can convey that. So you can tell your kids, like, I don't know everything that we're going to do today when we're at grandma's house, but I know that we're going to have breakfast and we're going to have lunch, we're going to have dinner. And I know that if you get bored, you can come and do this. I know that at some point today, we're going to go to the zoo, whatever it is, you're letting them know kind of the basics of the plan. What that does for you as the parent is you get to stay in charge because the person that knows what's going on is the one that's in charge without having to, why are you acting this way? I'm in charge of you. It's just have the plan. It kind of puts you that way. With some kids, they need it kind of written out, the things that we're going to do. You can make a game out of a lot of travel things, and it can be way more enjoyable. It doesn't have to just be that they spent the whole time on their screens while you're traveling. And then just giving them a way out too, like especially if they're around a lot of cousins, kids their age, different families. Let them know that they can always come by you. If you have kids with a lot of challenges, it can be helpful to have a place that you can go to take a break from the family and the
Hmm.
activities, whether it's back to your motel room. I got a lot of families that they spend a couple hours, like we're going to go to the motel and just have some downtime and kind of regroup and then jump back in with
Well,
everybody.
well, one thing that seems very clear is no matter what, as best you can, outline the schedule. So there is in there the child's mind some structure, what to expect.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because
We might not
it's
think about it, we might
no.
think, oh, I'm being too controlling. But for kids, it's not about controlling. And even if they're fighting you for control, like, I don't want to do this, I want to do this, that's okay. It's just for them, it's like for it to look like nobody knows what's going to happen, it can be really unsettling for kids, even older kids, when it looks like, yeah, we just sort of like show up and it's a big mad, you know, frenzy and nobody's
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
we don't know when we're going to eat or when, any of these things.
So true because when you think about it, you have expectations of your child. Why shouldn't they have expectations? They're just, sitting in the car. I don't know what's coming next. And that can be scary. It's like if I was, hanging out with somebody and I didn't know what we were going to do, a little uncomfortable. Yeah, unless they said,
Yeah.
my friend recently did this. I'm not telling you where we're going. Okay. And there was a nostalgic reason for that. We went to a restaurant we used to go to like 20 years ago, and it reopened. I had no idea. But when you're a kid, you don't know what's going on. So that a lot of
Yeah.
anxiety can come from that.
Yeah, mostly a lot of kids don't love surprises, and there's
Yeah.
already a lot of them around the holidays, right?
Mm. For sure. And I'll share in a past relationship, um, the person I was with, family would celebrate everything. And that's great. I mean, everything. No, I really did mean everything. And I worked very early in the morning, 3 different jobs. And there were times where I'm just going to hang home here. You go have a great time, give my best this one time. I needed time. So I can't imagine, a kid where it's, you're on a holiday tour 2024, hopping to one location to another, especially with blended families. Like there's so much in the mix where your kid just wants to maybe watch TV, just hang out, whatever. So I guess you need to read your child and understand. And the best word for all of us, Michelle, I believe is compassion. Have compassion. We think we do, but maybe we don't so much because we don't understand.
Yeah, yeah. One last thing too on, gifts and that kind of thing is I think sometimes we have this expectation that our kids should act a certain way when they get a gift. And it's not a bad expectation. Like we want them to be grateful, but I feel like a lot of parents get really upset because they're like, they did all this planning and all this, gift
Yeah.
buying, and then the kids just want to play with the box or just toss it aside. And if you're around other people and it's someone else's gift that was given to your child, it can feel even more pressure. Like say thank you to grandma.
Yeah, this is
So
this
just
is really
telling
good.
so just telling your kids ahead of time, I like to script it out for them. It's like, when you get something, like you just need to look at the person and say thank you. And we'll, just help them through that, especially your kids that have social anxiety. They don't know how they're supposed to react. And so there sometimes is an overreaction, and sometimes there's and this is what gets parents more, is when there's an underreaction. And later they may play with that thing for hours, but in front of you or in front of the people, it's a lot of pressure. So
Yeah.
look for places where you can take that pressure off.
Thank you for bringing that up because that's a big one. And yeah, you feel uncomfortable as a parent. You don't want people thinking your kid doesn't appreciate it. Maybe they do, but they're not expressing it. We have to teach them how, very simply, to express it. Michelle, what's the best way for somebody to find you if they just want to start a dialogue? Maybe they need help navigating all of this.
Yeah, the best way to get a hold of me is to go to the website, parentingchallengingkids.com. There's a get started page. You can sign up and get a free call with me. And it puts you right into my calendar, and we can start talking about how I can help you the best. I have an online parent group called the Playroom that you'll also see on the website, where you can get coaching every single week on whatever your problem is, or just listen to other people's stories and learn a lot that way. Those are 2 really good ways to get help right away.
Yeah, one thing from the stories you realize as a parent, I'm not alone. Others are dealing with the same stuff. Michelle, thanks so much for being here today. Truly appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
We'll catch up next time. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down,
It's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.